Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes life feels like a long list of problems, one after the other, some small, some massive. And in those moments, we all ask the same question, why me? But what if you paused for just a moment, and instead of asking why me, you whispered to yourself, what now? What can I make out of this? Because every problem, every heartbreak, every failure is simply a new door waiting to be opened. It is easy to love life when everything is working in your favor, when the plans go right, when people support you, when the future looks clear. But what happens when life throws a setback in your face, when the door closes, when someone you trusted walks away, when the plan falls apart? In those moments we think everything is lost. We call it failure, we call it unfair. But it is actually something else. It is a reset, a new beginning in disguise. Something had to break so that something else could be born. But we rarely see it that way. We are too busy grieving the plan that died, too busy clinging to what we thought was meant to be. What we forget is that growth is not polite. It doesn't knock and wait, it crashes through. Sometimes it takes away everything safe and familiar, just so we can learn to build something better. A setback is not the end of the road. It is the start of a different path, one you never considered before. And maybe that's the path you were meant to walk all along. Think of the most powerful people you admire. Their stories are not straight lines, they are full of pauses, breakdowns, losses, but those moments didn't destroy them. Those were the exact points where the new version of them started to take shape. It is not about pretending setbacks don't hurt. Of course they do, but you can hurt and rebuild. You can cry and start again. You can feel broken and still carry the seed of your comeback inside you. Some beginnings wear the costume of failure. That job rejection, maybe it forced you to pursue the dream you had kept on the back burner. That relationship ending, maybe it gave you the time and space to finally heal yourself. That financial loss, maybe it sparked the idea that became your future business. Every setback has layers, and underneath the pain, there is always a lesson, a spark, a seed. We often wait for a sign to begin again, but the setback is the sign. The universe is saying, this version of your life is done. You are ready for the next one. Do not try to recreate the old chapter. Write a new one. You are not here to stay the same. The people who rise after setbacks are not stronger than you. They are simply more willing to see the problem as a doorway. They choose to ask, what now, instead of why me? They understand that creation doesn't begin when things are easy. It begins when you are left with nothing but the will to try again. Next time life pushes you down, do not rush to fix everything. Just pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is this setback here to teach me? What can I build from this? What part of me is waiting to be born now? Because the truth is, nothing new begins without something old ending. And sometimes, the most painful endings are just the start of your real story. Discomfort is not something we chase, it is something we try to avoid at all costs. We design our lives around comfort, comfortable routines, familiar people, predictable outcomes. We want safety, we want peace, and there is nothing wrong with that. But what we forget is that all the things we are proud of, all the things we remember, all the things that truly changed our lives, they were born from discomfort. That feeling of unease, of not knowing what comes next, of standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, that is the space where growth begins and creativity comes alive. When you feel comfortable, you stay still. You do not question things. You follow the script. But when life makes you uncomfortable, when things stop working, when people disappoint you, when your plans fall apart, that is when your brain starts to move. That is when your heart starts to open. You begin asking different questions. You begin imagining different outcomes. You begin creating, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Innovation does not come from sitting in a perfect room with perfect answers. It comes from messy questions. It comes from restless minds and broken systems and people who are tired of waiting. Most of the breakthroughs in this world came from people who were frustrated, people who were stuck, people who were told no too many times. That discomfort became their fuel. It pushed them into a new way of thinking. It forced them to find a door where everyone else saw a wall. Think about your own life. The things you are most proud of, did they come to you easily? Or did they arrive after nights of doubt, after you failed and got up again, after you sat in silence wondering if you were even good enough? That discomfort, that ache in your chest, that tightness in your stomach, that was not weakness. That was the sound of something new trying to be born inside you. We are taught to chase success, but no one tells us that success is usually hiding behind discomfort. It is in the tough conversation you do not want to have. It is in the new skill you are afraid to learn. It is in the decision you keep postponing because it scares you. But until you step into discomfort, you will keep walking in circles. You will keep repeating the same day with a different date. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your invitation. It is life's way of pulling you into the next chapter. And the longer you avoid it, the longer you delay your growth. Growth does not ask for your permission. It demands your surrender. It asks you to stop pretending that you have it all figured out. It asks you to trust the process even when you do not understand it. The most creative people in the world are not fearless. They just learned how to be friends with discomfort. They stopped waiting for the perfect moment. They chose to show up when it was awkward, when it was new, when it felt uncomfortable. And that made all the difference. You cannot create something new if you are always clinging to what is safe. You cannot move forward if you are always looking back. Sometimes discomfort is just a sign that you are alive, that you are trying, that you are about to break into a new version of yourself. You do not have to be ready. You just have to be willing to sit in the unknown long enough for something powerful to emerge. Pain is something we all run from. We cover it up, distract ourselves, pretend we are fine, move on too quickly, or bury it so deep that we forget where we placed it. But pain does not disappear just because we ignore it. It waits, it lingers, and if we pay attention, it can become something else entirely. Pain has a strange way of clearing the noise, burning away the unnecessary, and leaving only what truly matters. It strips you down, but it also sharpens you. In the middle of that sharp, uncomfortable ache, there is a chance to reimagine who you are and what you can do. We are told that pain is a sign of weakness, that it should be hidden, that it must be solved quickly. But some pain is not meant to be solved. It is meant to be felt. It is meant to sit with you until it shows you what needs to change. Because pain is honest, it does not lie. It points to what is broken, to what is missing, to what you have been avoiding. It forces you to stop pretending. It forces you to look at your life without the filters. Sometimes pain is the only thing strong enough to break the cycle. You were doing the same thing every day, living a life that was too small for your soul, accepting less than you deserved. Then the pain came. Maybe it was a loss, maybe it was betrayal, maybe it was just a slow realization that something was not right. And suddenly you could not pretend anymore. Suddenly you had to ask yourself, what do I really want? Who am I really trying to become? What needs to end so that something better can begin? It is not about romanticizing pain or pretending it is easy. It is not. Some pain leaves scars. Some pain changes your entire body, your entire view of the world. But even then it offers you something, a new way of seeing, a new path forward, a new layer of depth. You begin to notice what you never noticed before. You begin to care differently. You begin to create from a place that is not just about success, but about truth. People who have walked through pain do not speak the same way. They do not dream the same way. Their words carry more weight because they have felt the silence of being unseen. Their ideas carry more power because they come from a place of survival, of healing, of rebuilding. Pain gives you access to a part of yourself that joy alone cannot reach. When you are in pain, your imagination becomes a lifeline. You begin to picture something better because staying in the same place is no longer an option. And in that act of imagining, a new version of you begins to form. One that is more resilient, one that is more compassionate, one that understands that creating something new is not just a privilege, it is a necessity. Pain reminds you that life is short, that you do not have time to waste on things that drain your spirit, that your time, your voice, your energy, it matters. And once you feel that kind of urgency, you stop waiting for permission. You stop chasing perfection. You start building. You start expressing. You start becoming, not because everything is fine, but because it is not. And because something inside you refuses to let the story end here. Pain cracks you open, but it also clears the way. It makes room for the real you to rise, and in that rising, you begin to reimagine what is possible. Not just for yourself, but for the world around you. Pain shows you what matters, and once you know that, you cannot go back to who you were before. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. It never has. When you are surrounded by what is familiar, when your days look the same, when nothing challenges you, you may feel safe, but you are not growing. You are simply surviving, you are repeating, and that may be fine for a while, but deep down, you know there is something more waiting for you. Something that will only appear the moment you step into the unknown. The comfort zone feels warm, but it is also where dreams go to sleep. You do not risk, you do not reach. You tell yourself stories like maybe next year, or I am not ready yet, because staying where you are feels easier. But every time you choose easy, you postpone the version of you that is trying to emerge. Growth begins when you are willing to be uncomfortable. When you take a step into a room where you are not the smartest person, when you say yes to things that scare you, when you admit you do not know yet but you are ready to learn, there is something powerful that happens when you stretch yourself. You become aware of your own resistance. You notice how fear speaks. You catch the excuses you have been making. And instead of running from them, you face them, you listen. You begin to separate your voice from the noise in your head. You begin to understand the difference between real danger and imagined fear. Outside the comfort zone, everything feels amplified. The risk feels bigger, the judgment feels louder, but so does the reward, so does the clarity, so does the confidence. You do not become brave by staying where it is safe. You become brave by choosing movement, by showing up in new spaces, speaking up when your voice shakes, trying again after you fall. Growth is not glamorous, it is messy, it is awkward, it is full of moments where you doubt yourself, where you feel lost, where you wish you could go back. But going back means repeating, and you are not here to repeat. You are here to evolve. You are here to find out what you are truly capable of. And the only way to do that is to cross the line that fear keeps drawing around your life. You do not need to take giant leaps. Growth can begin with a small shift, a conversation you have been avoiding, a decision you have been delaying, a risk that keeps whispering to you at night. Every time you say yes to the unfamiliar, you expand your world. You stretch your limits. You realize you are not as fragile as you thought. That fear did not kill you. That failure did not destroy you. That rejection did not define you. There is a version of you on the other side of fear that you have not met yet. Someone wiser, stronger, more aware, and that version is only waiting for one thing: your willingness to step forward. You will not feel ready. You will not have it all figured out. That is not how growth works. You learn as you go. You get stronger in motion. You build courage by doing. Everything you admire in others was built outside their comfort zones. The courage, the wisdom, the talent, it was shaped in the fire of effort, discomfort, and persistence. You are no different. You have that same potential, but potential means nothing if it is never used. If you always choose what is easy, if you never challenge the life you have settled for, you owe it to yourself to grow beyond your excuses, to move toward the life that scares you a little, because that is usually the life that matters the most. Growth begins when you stop protecting your comfort and start protecting your purpose. When you trade certainty for curiosity, when you let go of control and choose courage instead. No one likes it when the plan fails. We spend so much time trying to control outcomes, mapping everything step by step, convincing ourselves that if we just do things the right way, everything will fall into place. And sometimes it does, but often life does not follow your script. The job you counted on disappears. The relationship you trusted breaks. The project you poured your heart into collapses. And suddenly you are left with silence, with disappointment, with a blank space where the plan used to be. It feels like failure, like you took a wrong turn somewhere, like you are starting over. But that blank space is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of something different, something you never would have created if the plan had gone smoothly. When the plan fails, something unexpected happens. You are forced to think, really think, not just follow a path, but ask if it was even your path to begin with. You start questioning what you wanted and why you wanted it. You begin listening to that quiet voice inside that has been drowned out by deadlines and checklists and other people's expectations. That voice has been waiting for space, and now the failure has given you that space. Creativity does not thrive in a tight box. It needs breath. It needs space to move. It needs disruption. When the plan falls apart, it creates a rupture in your routine. Suddenly you are not on autopilot anymore. You are awake. You are uncomfortable. You are paying attention. And that is where creativity lives, in the tension, in the uncertainty, in the moment where you stop trying to fix the plan and start asking what else is possible. Some of the most powerful ideas are born in these moments, not in perfect conditions, but in broken ones. Not when you feel in control, but when you feel lost. That is when your mind starts to explore, to wonder, to imagine. You start considering options that you never saw before, simply because the old route is no longer available. Necessity opens the door to innovation. Pain opens the door to honesty, and failure opens the door to reinvention. The world is full of people who created incredible things not in spite of failure, but because of it. They wrote books after being rejected. They built businesses after losing jobs. They found their purpose after losing their direction. Their creativity did not come after success. It came in the middle of uncertainty, when the old way stopped working, and the only way forward was to build something new. Letting go of the plan is terrifying. It makes you feel like you have nothing to hold on to, but that emptiness is also full of potential. You are no longer bound by the limits of what you thought should happen. You can explore what could happen. You are free to dream again, not from a place of control, but from a place of truth. What do you really want? Who are you when the titles are stripped away? What matters now that the noise is gone? This is where your creativity finds its power. Not when things are certain, but when you have to figure it out from scratch. You stop copying and start creating. You stop chasing and start listening. You stop trying to impress and start expressing. And what comes from that place is more authentic, more real, more aligned with who you are. The failed plan was never a punishment, it was a push. A gentle, sometimes painful push toward the deeper part of yourself that you had forgotten. Toward the idea that had been sitting quietly in the back of your mind. Toward the life that is waiting to be built by your own hands, not by someone else's blueprint. Most people never discover how strong they actually are. Not because they are weak, but because life has not yet demanded that kind of strength from them. Strength is not something you find when things are going your way. It does not show up when everything is calm and predictable. It shows up when you are tested, when everything feels like it is falling apart, when you are standing in the ruins of what you thought would last, and the only thing left is you. That is the moment you meet the version of yourself that was always there, quiet, waiting, hidden under layers of doubt and fear. We do not like hard seasons. We call them unfair, painful, even cruel, but they are also revealing. They show us who we are when there is nothing to hide behind. They strip away the masks. When problems show up, they do not just disrupt our plans. They reveal our patterns. How we think, how we respond, what we believe we are capable of. The problem does not create your strength, it exposes it. The strength was already there. You just did not know it yet. Most people walk through life never tapping into their full capacity. They play small. They stay comfortable. They do not challenge themselves unless they are forced to. And problems do that. They force you. You do not get to avoid the hard thing anymore. You have to face it. You have to adapt. You have to push through. And in doing that, you discover that you are capable of more than you thought. Strength is not loud. It does not always look like confidence or power. Sometimes strength is just getting out of bed when you do not want to. It is telling the truth when lying would be easier. It is starting again when you are tired of beginning. It is asking for help when pride tells you to suffer silently. Strength is not a moment, it is a choice. And problems give you the opportunity to make that choice again and again. You never know how far you can go until you are pushed. And the push almost never feels gentle. It feels like heartbreak, like failure, like betrayal, but hidden in that discomfort is a door. You step through it, and suddenly you are doing things you never imagined, solving problems you thought were too big, holding emotions you thought would break you, leading when you felt lost, healing when you thought you were beyond repair. Some of the strongest people are not the ones who look like they have it all together. They are the ones who have fallen apart and still found a way to keep going. They carry scars, but they also carry wisdom. Because every time life knocked them down, they learned something. About resilience, about patience, about grace, and every time they got back up, they carried a little more of that strength with them. Strength is not about being unshakable. It is about being willing to shake and still keep standing. It is about staying present in the chaos, about breathing through the fear, about not needing to have all the answers to keep moving forward. When you stop trying to avoid the hard things and start meeting them with open hands, you grow, you expand. You realize that strength is not something you wait for. It is something you activate. Your strength does not show up when things are perfect. It shows up when you are tired, uncertain, afraid, and you still choose to move. You still choose to believe that something better is coming, that you are not done yet, that there is more inside you than anyone sees, that your story does not end in the problem. It begins in your response to it. Chaos is usually something we try to escape. It feels messy, loud, unpredictable. It makes us anxious because we are taught that control equals safety. We believe that the more we organize, plan, and manage every detail, the better things will be. And yet, when we look back at the most transformative moments in our lives, they were rarely calm or controlled. They were the moments when everything fell apart, when the structure broke down, when the old routine could not hold us anymore. In the middle of that chaos, something new began to take shape, something we did not plan, something we could not have created if life had stayed neat and orderly. Creation needs space, and oddly enough, chaos makes that space. It removes what is unnecessary. It breaks apart what is too rigid. It shakes us out of our habits. When everything is stable, we stick to what we know. We do not experiment. We do not question, we do not innovate, But when things stop working, when we are forced to rebuild, that is when creativity comes alive. The rules are broken, the expectations are gone, there is room to try something new because the old way is no longer an option. People often wait for perfect conditions to start something meaningful. They wait until life feels calm, until the path is clear, until the timing is right. But creation does not wait for peace. It thrives in the unknown. It finds energy in the urgency, in the tension, in the discomfort. Some of the most brilliant ideas are born when people feel backed into a corner, when there is no plan B, when the only way forward is to make something from nothing. Chaos forces you to get honest. You have to decide what really matters, what you are willing to fight for, what you are ready to let go of. In that process, you uncover a kind of raw truth that cannot be accessed when everything is smooth. You begin to create from a deeper place, not to impress others, but to survive, to express, to rebuild something real. That kind of creation has power, it has soul, it touches people because it was born from fire, not from comfort. When life spins out of control, you learn that control was never the point. You learn to trust yourself more, to listen to your instincts, to be flexible, to adapt, to let things unfold. Creativity is not about perfection, it is about presence. Being present enough in the moment to respond with heart instead of fear. Being present enough to notice the possibility hiding inside the problem. Being present enough to take the next step, even if the path ahead is unclear. Some people avoid chaos their entire lives and wonder why they never built anything meaningful. Others walk straight into the storm, not because they enjoy the struggle, but because they understand what it can produce. They are not afraid of messy beginnings. They are not waiting for certainty. They are creating in real time, with real pain, with real passion. And that is why what they build has impact. You do not need a perfect plan to start creating. You just need to accept that chaos is part of the process. It is not the enemy of creation. It is the spark, the rupture, the fertile ground where something new can grow. When you let go of the need to control everything, you start to find your rhythm in the chaos. You start to trust your own voice more than the noise around you. You start to create not because it is easy, but because you must, because something inside you refuses to be silenced by the storm. Because something inside you knows that even in the mess there is meaning. Even in the fall, there is flight. Most people spend their lives searching for answers outside themselves. They read more books, take more courses, follow more people, hoping that someone out there will finally give them the key. The one strategy, the one formula, the one secret that will unlock their potential and fix everything. And yet, no matter how much they consume, something still feels missing. Because the truth is, the solution they are waiting for is not out there. It never was. It is inside them, buried beneath doubt, fear, and the belief that they are not enough. The moment you stop looking outward for permission and begin listening inward for direction, everything changes. Inside you is a compass. It may not speak loudly, it may not always make sense to others, but it knows. It knows what you are drawn to. It knows what you are meant to build. It knows when something feels wrong, even if everyone says it is right. And yet, most people silence that compass. They trade it for validation, for rules, for fitting in. They convince themselves that someone else must know better, but your life is not a copy-paste template. It requires your voice, your vision, your way. You do not need to be perfect to find the answer. You do not need to have everything figured out. You just need to get quiet enough to hear yourself think. Most of the time, it is not clarity we lack. It is courage, the courage to trust our own instincts, the courage to act on our own ideas, the courage to believe that we already have what we need to take the first step. You do not need to be an expert. You need to be honest, honest about what is calling you, honest about what is not working anymore, honest about the truth you are tired of denying, The solution is often simple, but simplicity scares us. It feels too obvious, too personal, too quiet. We are conditioned to think that real solutions must be complicated, must come with a certificate or a logo or a shiny promise. But the real solution is the one that feels like peace, like alignment, like relief. It is the path that asks you to return to yourself, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Even in your darkest moments, you still carry that solution. Even when you feel lost, it is still there, waiting for you to listen. The pain you are feeling might be the very thing pointing you toward it. The frustration you cannot shake might be trying to guide you. The idea you keep dismissing might be the one thing you are meant to bring into the world. The solution is not always in the form of a plan. Sometimes it is a shift, a perspective, a decision to stop waiting and start becoming. When you stop outsourcing your power and start trusting your process, you begin to move differently. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You stop trying to be like everyone else. You begin creating from a place of truth, not comparison. And what you create from that place has depth, it has energy, it has soul, because it came from within you, not from a checklist, but from a conviction. Every time you doubt yourself, remind yourself that no one has lived your life. No one has felt what you have felt. No one carries your specific blend of insight, experience, and vision. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not waiting for someone else to save you. You are the solution. You are the idea. You are the beginning of something new. You do not need to know how it will all unfold. You just need to begin. You just need to believe that what is inside you is not only valid, it is valuable, it is needed, it is enough.